Bible study today, I'm going to show you some things about Jesus in Genesis chapter 1 that you've never seen before. Or maybe you have, but you probably haven't. And I think it's really sad and tragic that so many church-going, Bible-believing people who call themselves Christians or followers of Christ or whatever they want to call themselves, they never read the Old Testament. And they call the New Testament, but they've never read the Old Testament. So for them, the New Testament is not even the New Testament, it's just the half Testament, because they've never read the Old Testament. So how can you have a new one if you've never had an old one? Like, let me encourage you, read the Old Testament. There's so much in it. I'm going to read Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. I have way more to cover than this, but that's what I'm going to cover right now for sure. I'm going to give you Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and I might go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. So here's what it says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, there's so much interesting about that because in English, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words, but in Hebrew there are 7 words in Genesis 1:1. Breshit, bara, Elohim, et hashemayim, va'et haaretz. That's it. Those are the 7 words. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here on my trusty digital blackboard. I'm going to show you that, like in Genesis chapter 1, that Jesus shows up in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the first verse, which is kind of mind-blowing, right? Okay, so let's go. So, hopefully I can remember all my Hebrew aleph bet. So, the first word in Genesis 1, and by the way, Hebrew, while I'm doing this, Hebrew is a language that is written from right to left. In fact, it's like, I think all of the languages that are east of Israel go right to left, and all the languages that are west of Israel go left to right. Isn't that, okay? They're all pointing at the same place. Okay. And so they're from right to left. But the other thing we have to remember is that every Hebrew letter is not just a phonetic letter. It's also a symbol. It represents something, but it also is a building block. And when I say a building block, like words in Hebrew are constructed, they're not just built. I mean, they're not just spelled. So the first word in Genesis 1:1 is Breshit. And so it's spelled Beit, Resh, Yod, Tav. Now, that's the first word. And that word is in beginning. Now, Beit is a house. And so the letter Beit, when you see something, a word in Hebrew beginning with the letter Beit, it's usually, it has something to do with a house or it has something to do with inside. So Breshit is in beginning. Reshit, beginning. In beginning. That's how, like, that's one of the reasons why Hebrews who go to Hebrew school, they think so conceptually, and it's easier for them to think conceptually. Breshit. Now, if you take the word Breshit and you parse the letters differently, what do I mean parse the letters? Like if you separate them differently. Like if I take these two letters, Beit Resh, it spells the word bar. Now, the word bar in Hebrew, in Aramaic and Hebrew, is the word son. You already knew that even if you didn't know that if you've read the Bible. You knew it meant son because you've heard of Simon Bar Jonah. You've heard of blind Bar Timaeus, which means blind son of Timaeus. You've heard of Barabbas, which means son of the father. Okay, so bar means son. Okay, that's cool. It's interesting because God created everything, but God didn't begin the Bible with the letter that represents God, right? And the letter that represents God is the letter Aleph. Now, Aleph is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, which tells us that God is first. Beit is the second letter. Aleph is the first letter. And so Aleph it means the strength of the ox, or it means strength or might or power. And the letter Aleph is the letter that represents God. It's the first letter in the name Elohim, in the title Elohim. A lot of people think God's name is Elohim. God's name is not Elohim. God's title is Elohim. God is not God's name. God is God's title. Okay? Like, I'm Dr. Myron Golden, but my name's not Doctor. My name's Myron. right? And so his title is God. Now, the interesting thing about the letter Aleph and the name Elohim, which we'll get to in a little bit, is that, but I'm going to talk about it now because it's imperative for us to see how much this matches up with John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So, if the Word was God, why did the Word need to be with God? And the same was in the beginning with God, and all things were made by him. Without him was not anything that was made. And so the reason is because the name Elohim, when you read a word in Hebrew that ends in the letters Yod Mem, which is Im, ends with Im, you've heard that word too, like cherubim, seraphim, right? That means more than one cherub. So in English we say cherubims. Well, that doesn't make any sense. The word cherubs would make sense. Seraphs would make sense, but not cherubims or seraphims. It's like saying there was people, right? Okay, it's like you don't need the yud mem and the s at the end. Does that make sense? Not that you need to know that, but I think it's helpful. So I think it's fascinating that the word that is God's title for God is the word Elohim, which is a plural word, not a singular word. So God is showing that even though he is one, he is the one God, but he expresses himself in multiple ways. Okay? So Elohim. Now, the interesting thing about Elohim is it represents God. But the other interesting thing about the letter Aleph is this. The letter Aleph is made of two other Hebrew letters. What are they? The Yod and the Vav. There's two Yods and there's a Vav. So this is a Yod, this is a Yod, and this is a Vav. Well, a Yod is a hand. So we got two hands, and a Vav is a nail.
Get over here!